Newswatch, the 5 o'clock show with Teresa Kaszuba and Michelle Ferreri.
Good evening and welcome to Newswatch, the 5 o'clock show from downtown Peterborough. My name is Teresa Kaszuba. You don't have to be an avid naturalist or a gardener to help make a difference and bring the world of birds to your backyard and even just outside your window. Now, bird feeder and some bird seed will definitely get you started, but with a little know-how, you can make the right choices to really actually help the birds that are overwintering in our region. Some of the most fascinating creatures to watch. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to head inside to Avant Garden Shop and get some tips from Brenda Ibey on what to look for and the kind of things that you should have handy if you want to look and get started watching birds. It can be really simple, you'll see. Well, the birds know that winter is coming and so do you. Let's see what we can do to help them out right after we see what's lining up for 5:30. Here it is. Best retail shop in Peterborough, non-chain winner, Greater Peterborough Chamber of Commerce Business Excellence Awards. Ha-ha! But that is actually not what brings us to the Avant Garden Shop on Sherbrooke Street. What brings us here is the knowledge and know-how of that woman, Brenda Ibey. Brenda has developed quite the collection of information, accessories, and little know-how tips for connecting with birds in your community. Do you keep a bird feeder all year round?
Oh, you bet. I have lots of bird feeders.
Are you in the city or are you in the country?
Just 5 minutes from here outside of town.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, I thought that you're supposed to keep a bird feeder just in the winter time and then that the birds were kind of supposed to fend for themselves over the rest of the season.
No, it's actually more attractive to the birds. You get more variety. You see more variety of birds if you have feeders all year. Like goldfinches, you wouldn't necessarily see them in the winter. Not everybody has them, and they're beautiful yellow birds. They have a beautiful song. There's a lot of variety of birds, and especially through the fall, you see them migrating through if you have bird feeders.
Is fall a good time to get started? I mean, we're trying to kind of help birds through the winter.
Yeah, now is a great time to start, even like a month ago, because a lot of birds migrate through, and so at that point then you see all those different birds. Like a lot of the different sparrows and things have already moved through. But if you had feeders, they are attracted to that, so you'll really get to see more variety of birds.
I pulled this down from a tree in my backyard. I don't know how long it's been hanging there. I don't even know what kind of feeder it's supposed to be.
Well, that's a nice one for, this is the perch here, but you can put mixed seed in it because it has the bigger holes. This is a little collector for the seed that drops off. It's not a bad feeder. I'm not sure what brand it is, but it doesn't look too bad. It's metal, so it's pretty good. The plastic looks pretty durable. A lot of cheap feeders, you'll find that the plastic yellows and cracks and then just falls apart. I have feeders that don't do that, so they're all guaranteed for life. They're really great. It's a new kind of plastic. So many people will just buy a feeder and then a year later or 2 years later they're throwing it away because it just gets yellow and cracked and they can't clean it. And the feeders have to be clean. If they're not clean, the birds won't go to them.
Oh,
yeah. Or
they
you
have to be clean. So before I go out, what is safe to clean this with?
I would just use some hot soapy water. If you want to put a little bit of vinegar in, you can. I wouldn't necessarily use bleach because you just don't know what it's going to do to the
fair enough.
plastic itself.
And just take all the pieces apart?
Take it apart as much as you can because you can see in the bottom here how messed up it is.
Yeah, it's kind of moldy and yucky.
Yeah, and that'll just spread into your seed and your seed will go bad. And it can spread disease too if there's any disease that's transferred from one bird to another.
Oh, okay, good to know. How much space do you need to be able to successfully have a bird feeder going?
It really depends on your bird feeder. Like if you have, well, if people have trouble with squirrels, right, then you need to set up a stand like this with a baffle.
Oh my gosh.
It has to be sort of 10, 12 feet from a spot where the squirrel can jump. But if you have a feeder like this one that's actually squirrel-proof, it doesn't matter if the squirrel gets on it because he loses access to the seed. And he can't chew anything because it's all metal.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, so it really depends. You can just very simply set up a shepherd's hook with a simple little finch feeder as long as it's a good quality plastic feeder.
And this is the finch feeder. Can you bring it out? We'll show it to Kevin.
Yeah, this one here, it's from the U.S. and it doesn't yellow, it doesn't crack. You can really feel it. Like, come in and compare the feeders because the plastic just does not squish.
Where are the holes? They're tiny little itty-bitty holes.
Yeah, little tiny holes for the finches. And they like these types of feeders where they can just sort of sit all day and enjoy the Niger seed. This one, the bottom comes off as well. It's just a little more difficult, but then you can get in there to clean it again really well.
So what kind of bird is this for?
This is for a whole variety of birds because you can put a nice variety of seed, as you'll see in the feeder there.
Yes.
So it really depends on the seeds that you put in, what birds will go to it.
Oh.
But just about everybody will go to that. Woodpeckers have a little more difficulty because they tend to use their tail as a prop to hold themselves up. So in this case, he kind of hangs underneath it, but he can go to it. So you can get blue jays and chickadees, woodpeckers, cardinals, everybody.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
Oh, nice little party in your backyard.
Yeah.
Okay, and when do you start getting into this stuff?
Suet's great now, yep.
I've seen these things where, you know, you get a ball of suet and you roll it in seeds and kids can do it.
Yeah, you
and
can do
stuff
that,
like
put on little pine cones and things.
Is that any kind of bird still?
There are, just about every bird likes it. I've got a few different mixes of seeds, but it's great for the winter because they need some extra energy in the winter, some extra fat from the food and carbs to basically keep them warm through the winter. A lot of people stop feeding the suet in the summer because they're buying a cheap suet that melts. I have suet that doesn't melt, so it's great. You can actually feed it all year.
But there's no additives in it. It's
no,
just suet
no
seeds
suet. Yeah, and we don't recommend using bacon fat if you're making your own because there's too many nitrates and salt and thing in it. So you don't want to use that.
Or if you're in bear country.
Yeah, you don't want to do it if you're in bear country. No, just about any bird seed and stuff you shouldn't put out if you're really serious with the bears.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We don't have them here, fortunately.
We'll get you a nice video. Okay. Much more coming up from the Avant Garden Shop. Also in the house today, we have Drew Monkman, avid naturalist, also a great birder. We'll get some tips on getting started in the hobby later on. This is also ahead on the 5 o'clock show. Now, Drew, when it comes to tracking birds, Drew is your guy. We've even got a list of some of the interesting birds that we see in our area in November. Red-tailed hawks, Iceland gulls, loons and robins. Have they headed south yet, or will they still be doing that?
They're in the process of leaving right now, yeah. Actually, they hang around until fairly late in the fall. In fact, some robins will stay all winter long, depending on how much natural food is available, such as wild grape. And this year there is a lot of wild grape in particular, so I expect large numbers of robins to spend the entire winter here. This is a staple. I mean, there's a number of excellent guides available, but my favorite now is the Sibley guide. And it's good because it shows birds in different plumages. It shows not only the male and the female, but also also immature birds. And when we get into birds such as warblers, it shows you what the birds look like in the fall as opposed to what they look like in the spring.
Tell me about Birdwatch. The bird
there's an event that takes place every year in February called the Great Backyard Bird Count, where people right across North America go online over the course of a three-day period. I think it's February 15 through the 18th this year, and record what birds they have seen at their feeder. All of this information really contributes to what's called citizen science, using just everyday people to go out and make observations that biologists, scientists can make sense of, look at, and use for the purpose of bird conservation. If they notice, for example, that a given species is just not turning up anywhere, that's important information. The bluebirds almost disappeared completely, mostly as a result of competition from other species, such as starlings and house sparrows, for nesting sites. Starlings and house sparrows are non-native species that were introduced to North America, about 100 years ago, and tend to be more aggressive than a lot of the native species. So there was a lot of competition for nesting sites with starlings in particular. But through the building, making of bird houses specifically for bluebirds, the bluebird population was brought back because these houses were built in such a way that starlings could not get into them. They were custom fit for bluebirds. So you can now go out to a number of areas in the Kawarthas and quite easily see bluebirds if you know where and how to look.
Oh, well, that sounds like a good first project. Excellent. Drew, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Happy bird watching.
Thank you.
We're at the Avant Garden Shop, and could you imagine the accessories we found? But it all starts with your bird feeder. You talked about the quality of food.
Yeah.
Now, yes, we're at a retail store, but this isn't a sales pitch. Wherever you buy your bird feed, how do you know it's good quality?
Well, look at the package. You can see this seed. A lot of times seed bags are covered in plastic labels and things, so you can't actually see the seed.
Okay.
And there's usually a reason you can sometimes see right on the label, it says may contain oil to suppress dust. Birds don't like oil or dust. You don't want any filler in it either, so there's no filler in any of our seeds. So look for that on the label too, to see if there's some seed they don't like. Niger seed needs to be, well, a year old is almost too old. 6 months is better. If you put a feeder up and you've got a bag of Niger that's been sitting around for a while and they're not going to it, it's like, it's probably the seed. So get some fresh Niger seed.
So some of these accessories are actually like life-saving for birds, and that includes the window alert stickers.
Yeah, so that's an ultraviolet sticker. You put it on the outside of your window. Birds can see ultraviolet, and it'll stop them from flying into the window. And it's meant for seed. It actually has drainage holes in it. And you stick it on your window, and you can take this right out to clean it and to refill it, and you just leave this little stand.
Clean.
Exactly. Birds. If you have somebody on your list that says, I don't want anything, I've got enough, give them something like this. They can put it outside for the birds. The birds eat it. They love it. And when it's gone, it's gone. That's a seed scoop. So you can fill it up with the seed from your bag. It's got a little extra gadget on here, so you push that and then the seed comes out.
How often should I be refilling?
It depends on how many birds you have, but I fill mine pretty much every week.
So you want to always just watch?
Yeah. You get more birds if your feeders are full. If there's only a little bit of seed in the feeder, they don't see it as easily, so always have full feeders. And always make sure that you're circling the seed. Dump it out or put it in the top when it's coming through. Yeah, or mix it in with your seed, yeah. And make sure it's dry. You don't want it moldy. You don't want any stuff growing in it, so make sure it's clean seed too if you're mixing it with your other seed.
Okay. There's a lot more answers that we could have here, but I think that's plenty to get people started. Happy bird feeding and bird watching and birding and environment making. Coming up next, News Watch first at 5:30.